Jacksonville Jaguars, they move to 6-2 because that's what first place teams do in the AFC, beating the Pittsburgh Steelers 20-10. We got a rain game. Can we get a rain game alert? We need some weather game alerts. Jags moved the ball quite a bit in this game. Felt like they had the ball for the majority of it. I don't know the exact time of possession. Don't always check that stat, Sam. But the Jags had the ball quite a bit. The Steelers' defense did keep them in it, though, forcing fumbles. Trevor Lawrence had a bad red zone interception. Steelers going bend but don't break, hanging tough. But Trevor Lawrence hits Travis Etienne with a 56-yard touchdown to go up 2 scores. That was too much for the Steelers to come back from. We got Kenny Pickett getting injured. We'll talk about that particular play. Mitchell Trubisky had to come in, tried to lead the comeback attempt, and it did not work. So Jags 20, Steelers 10.
Yeah, what on earth was that red zone interception by Trevor Lawrence?
I don't know.
It was so bad that Charles Davis was asking, was he trying to throw it away?
Was he trying to throw it away?
Like, it was into
and
triple
just had
coverage.
No arm.
Yeah, it was into triple coverage, like clear, obvious triple coverage in the end zone. And he's like, his initial reaction was he trying to throw that ball away? And then when he saw the replay, he's like, no, I don't think, I think he just, I don't know. I don't think he just tried to get it out of bounds and didn't have the arm for it. I think for whatever reason, he lofted it into triple coverage, and it was punished by what should happen when you do that. Bizarrely terrible interception. Deontay Johnson, what a day for him. So completely hoses his quarterback early with drop passes. Then there's some kind of weird miscommunication / he got cut off, which should have resulted in a pick 6 from Kenny Pickett, only the DB drops it, just stone-handed drop. And then after the game, Deontay Johnson comes out and basically says the officials were corrupt and wanted Jacksonville to win, so presumably has cost himself like 5 figures worth of fines for saying that. Just bad day at the office for Deontay Johnson.
I'm always curious what why the officials want certain teams to win. Big mark,
this was a terrible game for the officials.
Oh, I'm not saying it was good. I'm just, do you think, like, from on high, it's like, hey, make sure Jaguars win. Make sure the Jags get to
the explanation is clearly incompetence rather than corruption. But this is the type of game that drives people insane because not just it was bad, but it was inconsistent bad, and it tended to favor one team.
Like, I think the inconsistent part is the challenge.
Yes.
Right? Go ahead.
Even within like similar directly contrasting plays. Like, there is a bad roughing the passer call against Pittsburgh, as in they called them for roughing the passer on a play where it really shouldn't have been. And then there's a play where Kenny Pickett gets hurt in a literally like teaching tape textbook version of the thing you're not allowed to do anymore, which is drive the quarterback into the turf. Adam Gotsis gets hold of him after the ball's gone, but not like egregiously late, but literally like two arms around him, full wrap, drives him shoulder first into the turf. And then like right at the end, right after the Pickett's shoulder has already made contact with the ground and presumably exploded, Gotsis like lift a hand up as if to be like, nope, didn't touch him. You're like, anyway, that one, not roughing the passer. The one before, way infinitely less bad, roughing the passer. Both of them went against Pittsburgh, and one of them cost them their quarterback.
The one that stood out to me later, we'll talk about later, was Rashawn Gary. Like, Rashawn Gary put a knee down to make sure that he didn't drop his weight on the quarterback, and they called that one roughing later. So that's the challenge, I think. That's the struggle with the NFL officiating. So at PFF, because we have a subjective, objective grading system, right? Subjective in that we come up with this rubric of this is a +1, this is what a 0.5 looks like. And objective as in, okay, we have those baselines that we're striving for. We do a lot of that, right? Like, so right now, all of our graders are going through the film and they're like, hey, this might be a +1. Is this a 0.5? Or is this a -0.5 versus 0? And because there's a lot of gray area type of plays, right? And so we debate them. And a lot of times we'll go back and say, okay, this guy's throwing a 15-yard deep out. It feels like a 1. It could be a 0.5. We're going to come to a final conclusion on that. But a lot of times, like, we'll go through the archives and say, what have we given similar plays in the past? And I think that's where fans struggle is when they're watching multiple games, or they're just watching a season of NFL football, and they're doing that A/B analysis in their head, and they're saying, I just saw this roughing that was not called, and I just see this one that is called, and they're either the same or, like you said, more egregious, less egregious, and you're getting the opposite. That's where people struggle, and that's the challenge with anything that is super subjective, is you need to kind of like pull from the archive and say we want all similar plays to be called the same as much as possible. And when you see that inconsistency, that's where fans struggle with it. That's challenging.
Whatever about, doing it, trying to keep game to game consistent, or even the same crew across different games consistent. I don't understand, A, how it happens, and B, how you fix it. That like within the same game, the same guy looking at the same picture comes to completely different conclusions. Like that's a problem with officiating. I think it's challenging to get like this crew calling it exactly the same way as that crew in a different game at the same time. I think it's probably also a challenge to get this crew calling it the same across different games. But how they can get it so wrong across the same game when they're looking at exactly the same, or the same picture, or even like slightly different pictures, and get it backwards, like the wrong way, that's an inexcusable flaw of officiating. Like that is bad officiating, and something should happen, with that. Like, do you see Jalen Warren seemed to get fined $50,000 for picking up a blitz? Well, in fact, J.J. Watt tweeted about it. Like, because
what did he do?
He literally picked up a blitz, and like when he went in to make the block, he like lowered his head to brace for the linebacker running at him full speed, and apparently that's a $50,000 fine now.
For lowering your head?
Yeah, and because it's a $50,000 fine because he's previously been fined for lowering his head when he was running up the sideline and a dude was coming in to like knock him out of bounds, and he like lowered his head that way to brace for contact. So in 2 different plays this season, he has lowered his head to essentially absorb contact, and on each occasion has been fined a fortune for it. Like, that's madness. But the point is, guy who's not being paid a lot of money is getting fined big 5 figures for like playing football. And over here we've got the officials egregiously missing calls, and nothing will happen. Maybe they'll be reassigned to a slightly less important game or whatever, but like there's no consequence for that. That's a problem in NFL officiating.
I mean, I don't know what even punishing officials does.
I mean, what does punishing players do? If we've decided this
makes
is a
them
thing,
get another fine later in the year, apparently.
Right. If we've decided this is a thing that impacts behavior, fining or punishing, then it should apply to officials as well as players.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know, man. It's just it's a tough sport, man. I do like this year. It seems like they're talking to New York a lot more, and they've been more subtle about it.
Which is a bad thing, by the way, the subtlety. Like, that should be obvious and transparent.
I know you've been saying it should be fully transparent. I don't care. I want them to get it right. I don't care that they're I want them to talk to New York more. I want them to save coaches' challenges on when it's a terrible missed call, whatever it might be. A couple things to highlight in this game. Jags defense again plays extremely well. I know you got the rain game and everything, but it's been a trend this entire season that the Jags are making life difficult for opposing offenses. Their run defense, the stats have been great. The grades are going to be outstanding in this game. Devin Lloyd, second-year linebackers, playing really well. Folo Fatukasi in the run game, looking good. They were outstanding, the Jags. And their defense, again, they contest every pass. Like, they are making every completion just a challenge. Other than, George Pickens catches a slant, splits the defense. He got his, almost made another ridiculous, spectacular catch, just ended up landing out of bounds. I mean, it's every single week. That one didn't count, though. But, yeah, the Jags defense deserves a ton of credit.
Yep. No, it was fantastic. Darius Williams playing incredibly well at corner. I was interested that Kenny Pickett, Two Gloves Pickett, kept the gloves on in the rain.
Yeah.
What the hell I've never encountered a set of football gloves that are even viable in wet conditions.
That's been new over the last 10 years or so, I think, the rain glove games.
Yeah.
Now, most receivers will take them off.
That's the thing. You'll see it
catching
as
the
soon
ball.
as it gets wet. You will see receivers get rid of the gloves because it's actually worse than trying to catch the ball with just your bare hands.
Yeah.
But so I was curious, like Kenny Pickett with his, dinky little hands. Well, it's raining now. Are you going to stick with the 2 gloves thing because now you just two slippery hands trying to grip the ball, and yet he stays with it, and it didn't seem to affect him.
That's why I appreciate you, Sam. You ask the hard-hitting questions.
Difficult questions.
Yeah.
No, nobody's going to answer it.
Yeah.
But
The questions Pittsburgh media is afraid to ask. Right?
why don't you get your guy Pony on that?
I'll talk to Pony.
Yeah.
We'll get that going.
Get the answers.
But the Pittsburgh's media, they're too busy writing hit pieces against PFF. They're not asking the right questions.
Right.
Kenny, what kind of gloves are you rocking
What
in
kind
the
of
rain?
how do his gloves function in the wet?
So Pickett has a rib injury and multiple ribs even.
Yeah, on account of being driven in the ground by a dude.
Yeah. And for 2 times in 3 weeks now, a starting quarterback gets injured on Sunday, has to come back on Thursday night. So we had Trevor Lawrence injure his knee a couple weeks ago. He did come back to play the Saints the following Thursday. Pittsburgh has to come back and play the Titans just this Thursday. So something to keep an eye on. We might get Will Levis and Mitchell Trubisky this Thursday night if Pickett can't go.